Torah Od, Megillah Esther, page 192, second column, top line of the page. Okay, the Alter Rebbe asked the question, what was Matan Torah accomplishing? So the Alter Rebbe explains, Avram Avinu, which is Ever Ma, Halach Menaseh Negba, which is complete bittul to Hashem with Av and Yira, he brought Alukus down into the world. The problem is, not everybody's on that level like Avram Avinu. So therefore Hashem gave Matan Torah the Ramach Mitzvah, which is Ratzah, the longing, and the Shasalei Mitzvah Leisa, which is the Shaiv. And therefore through Torah, you have Nasa and Nishma. Nasa is the level of the action, and Nishma is the gathering of the sparks of Kedusha. This is what we're up to now. V'gam, top line of second column of 192. V'gam, Ikar HaGeiram Lamshachas Ha'intzal Baruch Hu. The primary revelation of Elokus. She'ayim Eslabish V'Torah Mitzvahs. What is the primary level of bringing down Elokus into Torah Mitzvahs? That it should come down to the level of Chochmah, basically of Atzilus, which is the source of Chochmah. That's primarily learning Torah and doing mitzvahs. Because the Keli comes before the Od. Okay, you have Od and Keli. You have light and Keli. Now down here, the Keli is lower than the Od, right? Because if anything, the Keli limits the Od. But as everything we know, if the Kelim, if the vessels down here are lower, that means it originates in a higher place. So the Kelim of Torah Mitzvahs originate in a higher place than this Hamshacha of Torah Mitzvahs. And he says, like it says in somewhere else, all over the place, in other words. We know the pasuk at the end of Vayishlach says, these are the kings that ruled in Edom before there was a Jewish king. And it says there, Vayimlech, Vayamas, Vayimlech, Vayamas, they ruled, they died, they ruled, they died. Right? So it says in Kabbalah, what does that refer to? That refers to the Shviras HaKelim of Tehu. In the world of Tehu, which is the source of Edom, Tehu is higher than Tikkun. It's the higher spiritual world. But the sparks of Tehu, through the concept what's called Shviras HaKelim, whatever that means, doesn't mean the dish is broke. It means there was too much oil for the vessels, and therefore the vessels couldn't handle the oil, so the Kelim broke. And those great levels of Elokus, of the Kelim, came all the way down here, low, 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 low. And therefore, in essence, Tehu is higher than Tikkun, and that's why, Chassidus explains, why was Esav the Bechor? If Yaakov is greater, Yaakov should be the Bechor. So Chassidus explains, because Esav represents the world of Tehu, Yaakov represents the world of Tikkun. Why was Esav the Bechor? Because he's stuck at a higher level than Yaakov. Okay, so therefore the Kelim are even higher. As it's known, the source of the life, the godliness, the sparks of Kedusha, in inanimate plant and animal, is much greater, much higher than the level of a person. Therefore, like we learned in many Maamarim, why can food, which seemingly is inanimate plant animal, which is lower than a human, how is it possible for the food to sustain a human? Because the sparks of Kedusha in the animals are greater than it is in us. Why? Because it comes from a higher source, so it fell down lower.
Is there still the world of Tohu, or the world of Tohu is finished?
No, the world of Tehu is above time and place. You can ask a question, what year did Shviras HaKelim happen? You can ask a question, what year did Shviras HaKelim? Shviras HaKelim is above time and place, so it's continuously happening. It's a spiritual level, which
He
is,
said it broke.
yeah,
Is it breaking right now?
yeah.
So
It's
why
a
is it-
spiritual level.
So why are we saying broke? You should say it's breaking at this time.
You're right. It technically, it happened before creation, but before creation there was no time. So now it's in creation also. Shviras HaKelim is not something that happened. Just we say the vessels broke. I mean, it's also it's a funny term because you're talking about spiritual. Shviras HaKelim is continuous.
Okay, therefore the theory of they broke and the Kedusha came down and now we have elevated, it's never going to end, it's a constant thing.
It's never going to end until Mashiach, correct.
So why
That's why we have to keep elevating sparks.
Very good. So why are we saying when the Jews left, they elevated
2 general sparks.
That's not true then, because it's happening at this time.
Correct. To a certain extent, yes. Yeah.
It's frustrating.
If it's frustrating, it's good. A person should be frustrated.
It's a good type of frustration.
And spiritual frustration is good. Okay, so he says, L'chein, Iker Gamkin, Iker Hamshachas earns of Tola Bechinas Keli. Therefore, it's dependent on the vessel Shedei Maisa Mitzvah Kiyumen B'Peil Mamish. By doing the mitzvahs, She'eis in Bechinas Keli. That you make a Keli when you do mitzvahs, Mizan Nim Shecha Ernim Mislabish B'hem. It keeps coming down the ord of Kedusha. Vizel Gamkin, like he said before, Lo Yamar, it's Chosid, and Amar, it's an illiterate, cannot be a Chosid. Why? She actually is some Shacha Erava Mumayla. It's impossible to bring down Elokus from above, Kimai de Kalim, which are Torah mitzvahs. It's only through vessels which are Torah mitzvahs. There's no other way to bring down light. In order to bring down light, you need a vessel. To give a gashmistic emotion, there's no way anybody will ever bring down the power of sight into the stomach or into the nose. It's not a vessel for it. If you don't have a vessel, no matter what, it's not going to happen. You can't say, okay, now sprinkle the things. It's what's the word? You're a ghost. You're whatever. In other words, you can't say, okay, I'm going to bring down a lokus in my way. This doesn't work. You need the keli for it. The keli is Torah mitzvahs. And therefore it says, sometimes we find like it says, sometimes, now the Rabbi says, now we can understand. Sometimes it says, Avram Avinu's greatness was, he didn't even have Torah yet, and he did it. Even Erev Chatzeres, or even Erev Tavshilin, even rabbinic mitzvahs he did. And sometimes it says, no, Avram Avinu was before Matan Torah. He didn't accomplish too much. How do you reconcile? Was it a great thing or not a great thing?
When somebody is on the street and never put tefillin on, one grabs and puts tefillin on it.
No.
How does he become instantaneously a king? He's never put tefillin on.
Now he did.
He's putting it on.
So now he's a keli when he puts on the tefillin. And so what's the question?
King for what? He was always a king.
No, he not for the revelation of Elokus. Not to be openly connected. Every Jew essentially is connected. The child is automatically connected to the parent. But there's no open connection. There's no relationship. A Jew, the fact that he's a Jew is connected. But if you want an open connection, that he's now a vessel for Elokus, that is when he does a mitzvah. Instantaneously. What's the big... So he says the Shnei Memes both are true. Ki mitzad sherish nishmatzai, as far as the sherish of his neshama, hayagba l'mayla. his neshama was so great. His neshama was completely bottled to Elokus, like the others were Merkava, Ubachein is Keli Lara Torah, Ve'erin Tabach Hanim Shum Mislabish B'Torah, Ki Avram Ever Ma Ever V'Keli. Because what is Avram Avinu? Avram Avinu brought down the highest levels of Elokus. Okay? That level he reached. Avokol HaMitzvahs Atzmam, which HaMadreges El Yenes Yesim, Lefnei Melech Melech, Adain le'nitnu b'me'avram. To use a different expression Chassidus use, the others before Matan Torah only reached to the koyach of Nivra. They reached to the highest level a creation could reach. As much as a person could humanly do, they reached. The problem is Hashem didn't break the barriers yet of Matan Torah. So the connection to Berdei only happened in Matan Torah. So he says, if you're talking about the level of Halokus that Avraham Avinu reached on himself, he was a Keli, Ever Ma, Keli of Bittul, so he reached an unbelievable level of Kedusha. But he still didn't reach the level of mitzvahs of Berdei, from Tehu. That he didn't reach. Concerning this level, it says, Yavi levush malchus, bring the garments of malchus, v'sus asher rochav alav hamelech, v'ilbish aseish. And what did Haman tell Achashverosh to do? You should bring the sus and this, and you should dress up the person with these garments. V'inyin kihine levush malchus. Now, Rebbe explained before, what is levush malchus? That's the level of Torah mitzvahs. Like it says, Salma. He spreads out the light like a dress, or Torah, right? Represents Torah, which comes from Chochma, Levina, Chinas, Levush, Mislabish, B'teich, Andu, Chakim. And so he says like this, Torah is the garment for Chochma. Mitzvahs, Nikram Levushin Shiram Malubash Chesed Reya Yamina and Gvura Reya Smala. In other words, like this, Torah brings down the level of Chachma, because Chachma is Shul Kodesh Baruch. Mitzvahs bring down Ava, Yira, all those levels of Torah mitzvahs. All those levels of Kedusha. And he says mitzvahs are called Levushim, Shebehem Malubash Chesed Reya Yamina. Chesed is in the right hand, like you put your right hand into the sleeve. That's the level of Chesed. V'amshachas b'chinas levush zeh. Sheyeslabish earn tabaruchu b'teira mitzvah b'maisa mitzvah kim b'peil mamish. How do we get that level? Is through the, like he explained before in the Maamar, in the other Maamar, through the level of sus. Remember, sus he explained are the letters. So how do you bring down the levush of malchus, the level of mitzvahs, which are levushim, through the level of sus, like it said by Matan Torah. Kisir kaval susacha makrisacha, you ride on the horse, the riders, makrisacha Yeshua. Okay? Now, Hine, it says like this. What does this mean? Level of sus, he said this in the other Maamar, that's why we learned it right. Sus is twice Samach Gimel. Sus is Samach Vav Samach. So there's two Samachs and Vav is Gimel Gimel. Hainu Bechin is Ga'i Ga. Li'ezah Bechin is Bittul. Le'elav Yisbarach to have the ultimate level of Bittul. Ki mitzvahs Richas Kavana mitzvahs ni Kavana. Meaning you need the Chesed and the Ava and the Yira to make it fly up. Jerusalem Yasemev Libe. Shein Eren Tzav Baruch Shela Memisha Batul Elov. So the Rebbe says like this. What is the bringing down this Levush Malchus? How do we bring down this level of Elokus, so to speak, of Matan Torah? So Avraham Avinu, because of his greatness of his neshama, brought it down, but only in the level of Nivra. He didn't reach Beirei, because it was before Matan Torah. There was Reb David Haradoker, there was Reb Shilem and Reb David, Talmidim of the original Taim Chetavim and Lubavitch. When the Rebbe instituted the yeshiva, there were a lot of Bachrim. So there were two extremely holy Bachim, Rabbi David HaRadoker and Rabbi Shilem. The Rebbe Rashab said about those two Bachim, those were he got back the principle of Tomchei Temimim and everything else is profit. So the Rebbe Rashab said about Rabbi David HaRadoker, he worked on himself as much as is feasibly possible for a human being to work. It was extremely, he died from, no, that was the Rabbi Poltava, but he reached a super high level. They tell the story, Rabbi David HaRadoker used to daven, he was a Bachar, he used to daven for hours and hours and hours, and he used to meditate with his eyes open. And the story is told that Rebbe Rashab once came into the Zal, and when Rabbi David HaRadoker was davening, and he walked back and forth in front of him. His eyes are open, the Rebbe walked in, he'd stand up, right? The Rebbe Rashab walked in, and he was walking back and forth in front of him, and he didn't, the Bachar didn't even realize that Rebbe Rashab was there. Later, the Rebbe Rashab said he had such unbelievable nachas from his Avodah that he didn't even realize that he walked into the room. He was completely, it wasn't fake, no faking over there. It was real that he didn't realize that Rebbe Rashab was in the room.
And then that all the Rebbeim were with their eyes open.
The first one or the second one?
Every Rebbe was different. The Rebbe, generally speaking, did not, what's known at least, he didn't daven b'Avodah. It wasn't the Rebbe's thing. Even Rosh Hashanah night, the Rebbe used to daven 5 hours, 6 hours. The Rebbe daven with the minyan, seemingly. It had to be because he went up to eat afterward. The Rebbe daven with the minyan. The Rebbe's a different Avodah. That was completely different than the other Rabbeim because Mashiach is a different Avodah than the other, Dara Shvi is separate. Anyway, okay.
Shmuel,